I'm putting on my baker's cap and giving you 4 award-winning dessert recipes. These are all Blue Ribbon First Place Award winners from county fairs to state fairs and maybe just some family competitions. I'm starting with award-winning peaches and cream pie. What I loved about this recipe is the interesting way to make the crust. You don't have to make a crust, which I love. It just kind of forms by mixing stuff and pouring it in the pie plate, and anybody can do that, even me. So you start by mixing up some flour and the pudding mix. It calls for the small box of the cook and serve pudding mix, but they did not have that, so I have to take some out of this big box. Almost exactly a 1/4 cup, take that out. And then a teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix that up, 1/2 cup of milk, and then 3 tablespoons of softened butter. When you start baking, it's important to pull out, your cold ingredients and let them start to get room temperature. It's almost ideal for every baking recipe. And then 1 egg. And that's it. You're just gonna mix this up with an electric mixer for like 2 minutes. Hot water, cold cream cheese. This will be softened by the time that's ready. All right, now we're just gonna pour it into a pie plate. The recipe calls for a 10-inch pie plate. I think that's probably a hard size to find. So just get the biggest one you've got. This is a 9.5 inch. I think it's gonna work just fine. It'll just be a little thicker. And it says to grease the bottom and sides. So I'm just gonna take the butter wrapper and work it. Just pour it in. Now we make the filling. I love peaches and cream everything. For the filling, we're using canned peaches, sliced peaches, 1 big can. Drain the peaches, but reserve 3 tablespoons of the syrup. Peaches are draining. Now you've got to beat your cream cheese that is now softened. This is like probably one of the hacks that I use the most often. Okay, so we're just gonna beat this cream cheese with sugar and that reserved peach juice. Now we build. So it says to take the peaches and then just arrange them over our crust filling. I think having some good dessert recipes is key because I'm all about making something savory, but I always end up picking up the dessert from the store, bakery, or whatever. Hopefully this episode is gonna solve that dilemma. All right, now we're supposed to just spoon the cream cheese filling over the top, but you wanna leave like a 1-inch border so that a little bit of the peaches kind of stick out. Okay, and then we just sprinkle it with a little bit of cinnamon sugar. And this already makes me happy. This is my kind of dessert. All right, then it just goes into the oven, 350 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes. Please work. The time has come. It worked. It's jiggly, but I think it's supposed to be like that. Okay, the instructions say to let it cool for 20 to 30 minutes and then put it in the fridge for 2 hours. Sorry, guys. See you soon. She's been chilling, just chilling. I'm digging right in. Cuts like a knife. All right, let's hope that this inside looks like peaches and cream. Well, I'll be darned. Look at that cute little piece of pie. It is kind of a mixture between a pie and a cake, but I'm gonna go with pie. Award-winning peaches and cream pie. Love the ease factor of this one. I love the little cinnamon sugar topping that really makes the whole thing look like a pie crust. Oh, I like that. Look at that, how easy that cuts. I was worried it was gonna be too cakey. It is not. A little juicy bite of fruit, but that like cream cheese layer really does give you that cheesecake kind of experience. That was a whole lot easier to make than cheesecake. I can see why this has won not 1, but 5 blue ribbons. This dessert won first prize at the county fair, and it's called Too Much Chocolate Cake. Is that a thing, really? I don't think so. But I do think everyone needs a good chocolate cake recipe, and we're gonna see if this is that. Right off the bat, I chose this because it starts with a box cake mix, a little secret weapon, and too much chocolate. How can this be bad? This is made in a bundt pan, so it's just an uniced chocolate cake. I'm expecting rich, gooey chocolate center that's moist without a frosting. 1 pack of Devil's Food cake mix, 1 pack of instant chocolate pudding, 1 cup of vegetable oil, 4 eggs, and then I love this addition, a cup of sour cream. I love sour cream in cake mixes. And then a 1/3 cup of warm water. All right, then just mix it until it's well blended. I suppose you could use an electric mixer if you wanted. 1 more ingredient. 2 cups of chocolate chips stirred in, which happens to be 1 whole bag. Well, this is a lot of chocolate. All right, so this one goes into a bundt pan. You want to be sure you grease it really well. It means like get in all the little nooks and crannies. I'm just doing a little extra insurance, a little baking spray. This has the flour mixed in. But this is probably our easiest one of the day. Well, it might even get easier as the day goes on. I do have high expectations of these recipes. I've never entered a food cooking competition. Does that surprise you? I'm too scared. Too scared to lose. I feel like you could probably make this in regular cake pans and stack it up. All right, this goes into the oven 350 degrees for 50 to 55 minutes, and then it cools in the pan for at least 1.5 hours. Tis time. Look at that. That looks really good. I really love that all of the chocolate chips did not fall. You know, that's a risk you take sometimes. Has to cool in here for at least 1.5 hours. We've got to go find something to do. Dun ta da! Woo! Look at that. Pays to let it rest. Now remember, it's called too much chocolate cake. So I interpret that as it has enough chocolate going on inside that you don't need a chocolate frosting on the outside. Okay, that works for me. I was supposed to dust the top with powdered sugar. I'm gonna put this back. I got so excited, I forgot. Simplicity at its finest again. So cute. I was gonna put some raspberries with it, but I just don't think it needs it. You can tell that cake is not dry in the least, and I haven't even tasted it yet. I'll be now calling this my secret recipe. It is too much chocolate in the best way possible. I confirm that this first place county fair cake deserved its spot and its blue ribbon. A+. Kentucky Blue Ribbon all butter pound cake. When you think about Blue Ribbon award-winning desserts, you think about state fairs, and to me, I just think about like all-American style desserts, and to me, one of the most like all-American iconic desserts is a pound cake. Everyone needs a good pound cake recipe in their file, and we're gonna see if this is that. So it starts by just creaming your butter and sugar. I've had this butter sitting out since last night, so it is perfectly softened. 3 sticks, and then I'm gonna use these wrappers to grease the pan. So take your butter wrapper. You wanna generously grease every surface of this with butter. And then add in a little bit of flour and shake it all around. I like to do this over the trash can. Don't forget the little centerpiece. Okay, once you've gotten it all covered, then you shake out all the excess. Greased and floured, ready to go. All right, then have your dry ingredients ready to add in later. So it's gonna be 3 cups of flour. This is not the way to measure your flour. It packs it in and you've got too much flour in there. You have to spoon your flour into your measuring cup. That way it's like kind of aerated and you get the perfect amount of flour. So I always like to just go over like that, and that's your lesson of the day. A teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so now everything's prepped. Our dry ingredients are prepped, our pan's prepped, and now we just start to mix. But to our 1.5 cups of butter, 3 cups of sugar. It's not meant to be healthy, Deborah. You'll notice it kind of sticks together at first, but just keep it going and then it will separate back out and get really light and creamy and fluffy. That's what you want. All right, then you're gonna start adding your eggs in one at a time and let them get incorporated before you add the next one. Now we start adding in our dry ingredients, and you're gonna alternate that with a cup of milk. So we'll start and end with our flour mixture and incorporate some milk in between. Okay, in with vanilla, give it one little mix and you're good to go. Get every last drop Then you want to spread it out as evenly as you can. All right, so I do that, and then I like to give it a little, whatever you call this, a jiggle. Okay, again, everybody's pans and ovens are different, so this is going to go in at 350 degrees. Instructions say an hour to an hour and a half. So I'm gonna start at 55 minutes. You just want a toothpick to come out clean. It's a good looking pound cake. All right, it has to cool in the pan for about 5 minutes, and then we put it onto a wire rack to finish cooling. We have to invert it out, but then we're gonna flip it back over because you want this to be the top. So take a rack and hope for the best. Okay, then I'm gonna flip it back over. It is a perfect looking pound cake. Is the taste as perfect as the look? Well, we have to let it cool completely before we find out. Be moist inside, be moist inside. A slice of this every morning for breakfast with your coffee. It's like the best thing ever. I just want to take a little sample before I plate it up. It's really the perfect pound cake. It's delightfully sweet. You would think with 3 cups of sugar it might be a lot, but it's not. It's like, I mean, it's the perfect amount, and it's so tender, what I like. I mean, it kind of almost melts in your mouth a little bit. We can do a little whipped cream, fresh berries. Kentucky Blue Ribbon All Butter Pound Cake, done and done. This is the winner of the North Carolina State Fair dessert, the Two-Way Brownie. It's a brookie. And per the winner's instructions, it starts with a box of brownie mix, and not just any box of brownie mix, but the Betty Crocker fudge brownie mix specifically, and you make this according to package directions. So for this, it's 2 tablespoons of water, 1/2 cup of oil, and 2 eggs. Now listen, you also need recipes like this in your file because there are sometimes where you want to use a box cake mix. You ain't got the time, but you can zhuzh it up. You don't have to just serve box brownies. First way to zhuzh up the store-bought things, chocolate chips. And the recipe calls for milk chocolate chips, not semi-sweet. All right, good and gooey, chocolatey. Now in goes the cookies. Original recipe calls for just Toll House chocolate chip cookie dough, not sponsored. And it's usually in the logs, but they didn't have the logs, but they had the already cut out squares. And I think that will be perfect because they're gonna be the shape of the brownie. And you'll get like 1 in each, so I think this is even smarter. All right, into the oven, 350 degrees. Box says 33 to 36 minutes, so I'm gonna go 30. All right, let's go. To zhuzh it up at the end, sea salt. It's just the perfect size to have 1 cookie per brownie. Woo, that's a fudgy brownie right there. And then optional. One recipe said it had caramel, one said it didn't. You can just use it as a garnish. You need to go ahead and pour yourself an ice cold glass of milk, or what I would prefer, a lightly chilled glass of red. North Carolina State Fair winner right here. I can see, even though this is like a box brownie mix with pre-made cookie dough, something about stirring those milk chocolate chips makes this like uber rich and takes it to another level. It really kind of makes you forget that you started with like pre-made stuff. So this is the way to zhuzh it up. Might be cheating a little bit, but I'm not judging. With these desserts, we don't have to pick a winner because we know they already are. Blue Ribbon Award winners, 4 out of 4 home runs. You've got to try these recipes. I don't know that I can pick a favorite because each one of these will satisfy one of my cravings. I've got a couple breakfast options, I've got the after dinner treat, and the midday pick-me-up. You can't go wrong here. See you next time.